Hello there. Also, happy Valentine's Day. Today's video is both timely and also thematically appropriate for the season, which I'm excited about because those two things rarely happen on this channel. But today we're going to be talking about 3 different ways to pour hearts in your lattes. The heart design is the most foundational of latte art. It gives you a ton of great technique that you can take forward into your more complex designs, such as tulips and swans and rosettas and the like, but on its own, it's lovely. Sometimes it's nice to go back to basics. So we're gonna do 3 different hearts today, and we're also gonna be making some very tasty drinks, thanks to today's sponsor. If you've been around this channel for any amount of time, you're probably familiar with Donna. They are a tea purveyor based out of New York City, and they make some fantastic concentrates. Most famously, their masala chai concentrate, which we have used in numerous recipes on this channel, but they've recently released a new concentrate. This is their rose cardamom concentrate. Similarly to the chai, it's used in a 1-to-1 ratio with whatever milk you like, and it has a tea base, but instead of those masala chai spices, it utilizes a cardamom sourced from Honduras and also an Indian rose, giving you a tea latte that is very floral, slightly spiced, and it's incredibly pleasant. We're gonna be using this in all of our drinks today, and additionally, if you would like to try some yourself, if you'd like to shop any other of Donna's concentrates or incredible teas, you can visit drinkdonna.com and you can use code MorganFeb25 for 25% off your order, which is kind of a crazy offer. It's a very good deal. So I would encourage you to check them out, but let's make some drinks. First things first, we are going to begin with a basic heart design. I'm going to be teaching all of these designs very similarly to how I teach latte art when I do them in person. The first thing we're going to do is talk through all of the actions without any liquid, giving us time to really show movement. And then once we get comfortable with the order of operations, then we'll add liquid. We don't want to jump off the deep end too fast, and also pouring latte art and talking for me is kind of like rubbing my tummy and patting my head. I guess I can do it, but it's not very easy and it doesn't feel very good. First things first, let's look at our position. We'll begin with our cup hand, for lack of a better term. There are 2 primary ways that one can hold a cup when pouring latte art. A lot of this is going to be up to your personal preference, so I will show you both. I'll give you kind of the pros and cons to both of them. First, and most commonly, you can hold your cup by the handle. That's what it's here for. You're gonna put your pointer finger through the handle there, and then I like to use my next 2 fingers kind of underneath as a little guide and a hold while placing my thumb on the top of the handle. Feels nice and secure, but additionally, I've got a lot of mobility. Not that we're gonna be doing this while we're pouring latte art. Once you've established your little grip here, we're gonna be creating essentially a 90-degree angle between our torso and our forearm. The goal here is to keep this surface of the cup kind of as flat and perpendicular to your body as possible. This is gonna make sure your latte art pours in a way that is pretty straight and balanced and symmetrical in the cup. And additionally, it's just kind of a nice thing when you get done, when you're presenting your drink, if the art is then perpendicular to the line of the handle. Just little hospitality things. But additionally, pouring like this means you can really track how your art is pouring in relation to the angle you're holding your cup at. So if you want to, bring it a little closer to your body, you can hold it a little bit further away, but really maintaining this angle right here. The other way you can hold the cup is very similar. We're still looking to create this angle, but you can hold it from the bottom. Kind of create a little claw here and grab around the base. This is how I prefer to hold cups because it's more comfortable to me. I will say, usually when people are starting out, I recommend they use the handle method. It makes it a bit easier to track this line here. Whereas if you're holding underneath, you've got a lot more range of mobility to accidentally scoot your cup in directions you don't want to. So feel out both, figure out what is best for you. Now, a basic heart happens in 2 motions. The first one, the action that happens before all latte art begins, is going to be mixing together your steamed milk and your espresso. Essentially, we're looking to homogenize the texture of these 2 very different liquids with very different viscosities. How we do this is we hold our cup at a nice steep angle. We have our espresso in there, and then we're gonna pour from a decently high angle. We're gonna be using a thin stream of milk. We're not pouring a ton in here, and we're basically just mixing the 2 together. So small, circular motions with your pitcher. By pouring from this high angle, we're allowing that milk to dip underneath the surface of the espresso, leaving us with a nice, evenly covered surface for then later when we begin pouring our art. Now, while you're doing this mixing motion, you want to make sure that you're not moving this cup upwards. We want to maintain this angle here. It's going to allow us to know when to stop mixing, because once the liquid you have in here almost reaches the end, you stop. We'll pour, 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 and mix, swirling, and then stop. Then kind of regain your composure, and then we're gonna go back in, this time much closer to the surface of our espresso and our milk. You're gonna be aiming for slightly below center here. As you begin pouring your milk, there's gonna be momentum that will push your design more into the center of the cup, and you wanna allow for that by aiming slightly below center, slightly more towards the ground or the counter. We'll get close, our tip is slightly below center, and then we let out a heavier stream of milk. We're looking to float that foam, that microfoam that's in there onto the surface of the milk rather than dunking it under. So essentially we've assumed this position right here, and then simply a matter of maintaining that flow as you rotate this whole apparatus upwards. We aren't lifting our pitcher, we aren't going different directions with anything, we're assuming this position and then rotating upwards. As your cup is almost full, you simply lift your pitcher to dunk that milk back under the surface. You do a little draw through. Essentially what that does is that big pour is creating a circle, and the draw through creates a little line that makes your heart do this. That was so cheesy. Okay, I'll stop talking. Let me show you how this works. I'm using whole milk today as it's the easiest to pour with, but all of this is relevant to any milk type. I'm actually so excited to have a nice little rose cardamom treat this afternoon. It smells good. All right, let me go get some espresso, steam up my milk, and we'll just give it a go. You will also notice that I'm going to be doing some pitcher transferring here. I may do a video later on why I do pitcher transferring. Essentially, I like to steam in one pitcher and pour in a different, larger pitcher. What I'm gonna do in a second here helps to homogenize my milk texture, and it's another form of milk polishing. Be right back. Nice double shot of espresso. And then what I mentioned by pitcher transferring, I have my steamed milk here. I'm gonna pour it down the side of the pitcher that I ultimately want to pour with. Give everything a swirl. Now we have our cup at a nice steep angle here. Thin stream, high up, little circles. It's at the edge, come in just above center, and then big rotation up, lift, and draw through. Okay, it's a nice little, nice little heart in there. It is, I can't emphasize how tricky it is to kind of talk and pour at the same time. However, as we can see with this heart, it is pretty centered in the cup. It's a little bit small, could definitely be a little bit bigger. I might try it one more time and not talk through the process. However, pretty simple. 2 movements. And I say pretty simple while knowing that it is actually a lot of practice and kind of difficult. But let's do it one more time and I'll be quiet for this part. Okay, that is a far more proportionally sized heart in my cup. Let's enjoy. It's very good. Okay, let's move on to our heart design number 2. The next heart we're going to be pouring is called a stacked heart. And this is definitely going to be a more intermediate level heart. This is building on the technique that we just learned in our more traditional standard heart. Now, you'll remember when we started that second pour, when we started creating that essentially a dot in the cup, we just let it go. We essentially created one humongous dot that we cut through to make a heart. A stacked heart is the culmination of many, many little dots set within each other. So we are going to be really working on building controlled momentum in this design, and also being cautious and aware of the amount of milk we're letting out with each pour. So our beginning steps are the same here. We're going to be starting high up, thin stream of milk, just like a big mixing moment here. Then once it reaches nearly the lip of the cup right here, we're going to stop. Once more, we're going to go in. However, this time I want you to aim kind of at this like quarter mark. If we think about our cup as being divided into like 4 quarters here, I want you to be even closer off of center towards this lip of the cup. I'm gonna be going in, again, close to the surface of the milk and laying a little dot, letting some milk out in a heavier flow. However, we aren't gonna keep our pitcher there. We're gonna stop and lift up as soon as we see that milk kind of hit the surface of our latte. We want it in this half of the cup over here because what we're gonna be doing next is continuing to push little dots of milk into the dot that came before it. As we do that, momentum, and as we shift our cup upwards, that design is going to push further and further towards the back of the cup. And we need to create space to do that initially. Additionally, what's going to be happening as you continue to push little dots into each other is that initial dot, that second dot, they're going to start becoming not dots, but like little arms that wrap around. I felt it was like a little battle, like a creative movement, like dancer. Anyways, essentially what we're going to be doing with this stacked heart is pushing that initial dot so it becomes not so much a dot, but an arm encompassing all other dots within it. It sounds so romantic. Once more, let me steam some milk and show you. If you thought it wasn't possible to wax poetic about heart latte art, think again. Most commonly when we think about stacks in terms of latte art, we think about tulips. Stacked tulips are like my all-time favorite latte art design. If you've seen anything I've posted recently with latte art, it is like 99% of the time a stacked tulip. The only difference here, instead of building our stacks to just go out, we're building our stacks to go into each other. Once more, pitcher transferring, just making sure our milk is as homogeneous in texture as possible. Give it a little swirl. We'll start high, do some mixing. Now our first dot. Stop. In and push, in and push, all while rotating our cup upwards and through. I made this very full. Don't make it as full as I did. Okay, however, what you can see here, and this could have gone a little bit further if I was a little bit more aggressive, you can see that this initial layer that I set down, that first dot, has now reached up and has started to tuck itself back into the heart. You essentially have one little full heart here, and you'll notice that even though I began pouring this design like way up here in this quadrant of the cup, the bottom of it is frankly even a little bit lower than I might want. This design is a little bit lower in the cup, not making it perfectly balanced, but it's pretty decent for a stacked heart. It's just a cute little variation. It adds some complexity, and it makes for some really, really nice, like darker inclusion of that espresso color within your heart design. Okay, I must take a sip. It is required. I'm so excited to drink like all of these as soon as I'm done filming. Okay, now our third and final heart design is going to be a little bit different than the last two. With a lot of concentrated drinks like this, especially chai within cafes, they are made using a 1-to-1 ratio of whatever concentrate you're using and milk. And typically on their own, they wouldn't include espresso unless you're ordering like a dirty chai or a dirty tea latte, which are all very reasonable options. However, when you don't have that espresso, you're left with a drink that might end up looking a little bit plain. You don't really have that contrast that you can pour into, so you usually end up getting kind of like a steamer looking drink, maybe with some cinnamon or spices sprinkled on top. However, I do want to show you how you can pour latte art into these types of drinks without including espresso. This entire technique is kind of just a game of speed and timing, so let me walk you through all of this once more, and then we'll do it because it's gonna happen pretty quickly. To make a latte art design on top of a cardamom rose latte, on top of a chai latte, you will need, of course, your steamed liquid, but you will also need some kind of finely ground spice. Donna has some incredible like spice powders that you can use on top of their drinks. Their masala chai uses the byproduct created in their chai brewing process, so it's a zero waste chai dust. And then they also have this cardamom rose dust that goes with their cardamom latte. Super floral and aromatic, but it's also very, very finely ground. So if you garnish your drink with it, it's not like a gritty experience. It adds a lot of aroma, and because it's not too thick, we can kind of pour with this. When I do this technique, I make sure whatever spice I am using is ready and uncapped next to me. We're gonna steam up our base concentrate and milk like we did before. So we'll assume our position with our steamed liquid. We're then gonna pour like we did before until we reach the lip of the cup. When you reach that position that you would otherwise begin your design at. Once you get there, we're gonna stop. I'm gonna quickly set our pitcher down. This is the tricky part. You wanna hold this position right here. We're gonna very quickly add some spices to our milk. Don't need a ton. We just want enough to kind of cover the surface. Give it a light spin just to make sure they're evenly distributed over the top. Now, we're gonna go back and we're gonna begin pouring a heart like we did before. We're gonna do the exact same action as that first pour. What's gonna happen though, is all of that nice light microfoam in your pitcher that now has this dusting of spice over the top is gonna flow to the top of your design. It's gonna sit in a really nice heart shape, just like you did with your other pours. Once you get the hang of this, you can additionally do other pours like tulips. You can kind of do rosettas. Rosettas are a little bit trickier, but I find the heart is the easiest pour to do with this technique, at least initially, as you get the hang of the speed and how this milk flows with spices on top. I feel like this is like the kind of pro barista hack that people eventually step into. I remember the very first time the head barista at the time, Garrett, at my very first coffee job, showed me how to do this. It was like my mind was blown. I'd seen him serving these absolutely beautiful chais with latte art on top, and I was sitting there as like a baby barista just with my jaw slack on the ground. This is definitely a technique that probably will take you some practice, but once you get the hang of it, it's such a wow factor. It's awesome. Okay, I'll be right back. Once more, I just pitcher transfer, and I do this with everything. It's kind of annoying and sometimes not possible to do in a cafe setting if you're working in a high-speed cafe, but just little extra things. Okay, my spices are ready to go right here. Begin pouring right up to that lip right there. Little sprinkle in there. Give it a swirl. We'll go back in. And there you have a nice little heart on top of your otherwise kind of plain tea latte. One of the things you'll notice when pouring with spices is that your pours tend to be like a little bit chunkier, just because you've really kind of interrupted the flow of your milk with these larger little particles. So sometimes you'll get little bits where the tail of your design's a little bit thicker. If you really, really want to be picky about your latte art in a cafe, which I am that person, I totally get it, go in with a little spoon. A clean spoon that you're gonna discard and go clean afterwards. And just kind of straighten out that tip right there. Cheers. This is the one I'm gonna go walk off stage and finish. I just know it. And there you have it. 3 different ways to pour hearts in your latte. I hope this was helpful to some of you. If you have any questions about these techniques or anything I was doing in this video, feel free to leave it in the comments and I'll get to as many as I can. Again, I want to give a huge thank you to Donna for sponsoring today's video. I am such a massive fan of them. It's such a pleasure to work with them every single time. And again, if you want to try their new rose cardamom concentrate, their chais, any of their teas, what have you, it'll be the top link in the description, and you can use code MorganFeb25 for 25% off your purchase. So, as I said, I'm gonna take this one very selfishly and go enjoy it. I'll see you all next time. Have a good day, everyone.